My hat! So here is the Traxxas Layer Pro running, and one of the things you're going to notice, it's going to run, it'll flip, and then it'll stop running, as you will be able to see in this bit. Alright, so at that point, if your truck does that, just stop. It's probably your clutch or your slipper clutch. In this case, it's going to be the slipper clutches on both of these. This is the Revo. This is the same day. The slipper always gets loose on this after a while, especially if you run it on grass. So let me go ahead and show you. So you find the gear, there's the gear. I'm using some pliers. Use some wrenches. Just grab the nut, and then you're going to spin the gear left. And the reason why you're spinning it left, that would be the same thing as spinning the nut right. Now I'm just going to tighten the whole thing because it keeps loosening. I'm tired of doing the whole 1.5 turns out or whatever, so just tighten the whole thing. Now for your slipper, sorry, that was your slipper. So now if it were actually your clutch, I'm going to go ahead and replace it just for fun, just to show you. Just remove the engine so you have the 4 screws on the top. This way, once I screw it back in, the mesh will be right because I'm not removing the whole mount. But remove the tune pipe, makes it easier. Lift the engine, kind of push it forward. Remember there's the linkage there for the throttle, so that slips out, and that's it. So once you get here to the bell, you're going to want to remove the bell. And I'm going to get my screwdriver first, just a flathead. And you're going to use the flathead to pry off that C-clip. There's a little C-clip. Just be careful not to lose the C-clip. There's also a little washer that you're going to have to be careful when removing it. Now, you can stick the driver into one of the little gaps in there, and I'm actually going to have to change because this one's difficult, so I'm just going to put my thumb and then push on one of the ends, and that'll make it easier. So push on one of the ends, make it easier. Don't lose that clip. If you have new ones, just replace it. I didn't bring any with me, so I'm going to reuse it. It's not damaged. Check the inside of the bell. See, everything in here is clean. We're good to go. Like I said, I'm still going to replace the clutch anyway. I'm already here. Might as well. Usually you would not. This one is still good, but I'm going to remove it. You just pull out. Be careful with the bearing. Don't lose the bearing. But if you look at this, there are some wear marks on there. But it's not worn completely. But you do have some wear marks there, some wear marks here, and on this side there's a lip from where it's worn. Eventually these will wear down on both sides, and then the spring, which is here, that's how it works. It opens up with force. The spring will start to wear out and eventually break. And then here's the new clutch. So I just need to open that. So the new clutch is going to come with the 2 pads, assuming you buy the factory ones. There's some really good ones made by, I think, HR Racing makes a 3 clutch set with springs. This is just the standard, the spring and 2 shoes. The other one with the 3 is a very good system, but I'm going to keep this one stock. Here we go. You would also need a new flywheel with the other system. But the spring just wraps around. So the thing that you want to do is before you even place it, just wrap it, make the loop. There's 2 little hooks on the end. Just try to hook them together. And then once you do, that's when you're going to just fit the clutch pads in there. Remember that the holes on the clutch pads go in the opposite direction. So when you're fitting this one, just make sure that the hole is on the opposite side of the other hole. Then just stretch the spring, and that is it. So now those holes go in the pins in the flywheel, and here they are side by side. So look at the new one versus the one that I removed. You can tell there's wear versus this one. Here, especially on the side, see the wear there. So this clutch could have lasted a little longer, but I'm already in here, so might as well replace it. But there we go. So we have the 2 little pins in there. That's where the holes go. You place one, and then you can just kind of wiggle it and move it. The spring will open up a little Now, just a little note, if that spring were to break, what ends up happening is the clutch will engage almost immediately. So if it's off the ground, the tires will run. And then as soon as you place it on the ground, because the engine doesn't have the RPM to propel it forward, what will happen is the vehicle will just die. So don't tune the engine. It's not the engine's problem, it's your clutch. So put the washer in now, and then the E-clip. Just be careful when you set the E-clip. Make sure that it's in front of the washer, not behind the washer. So just grab some pliers, and then you're just going to push that one forward. This thing kind of jumped. There we go. So let's try it again. And it's really easy. You don't need that much force. Yeah, it's so easy. Right, that's why I couldn't get on the first try. I'm kidding. But there we go. And then just make sure you push it in so all these three are inside of the groove in there. They've got to fit inside. And then just remount the engine. Make sure you slide it in. Make sure that throttle arm is engaged, or else you're not going to get any throttle response. But it was really that easy. It just slipped in, and then just tighten the screws. Bring one of them close, but don't tighten it all the way. Make sure that you go through all four before you start tightening. So I'm just getting it close, nice and close. And snug is really all you need. Do not over tighten. You can damage the threads. You don't want to buy a new engine mount. Well, you don't want to replace any parts that, you don't want to damage any parts and then have to replace them just because of negligence. But there we go. So we'll go through the fourth one. Also, when you're tightening, make sure that wires are where they're supposed to, that you're not pinching any wires, any fuel lines. But other than that, pretty straightforward. I'm just going to tighten everything. And then after this, I'm going to go ahead and run them. And this engine, this 3.3, this particular one that you're looking at right now, this one has already had a gallon of fuel through it. So the engines are pretty good. I think they last quite a while. I mean, it's very strong. They're supposed to last quite a bit, and the runtime is pretty good on it. On this one, filters, make sure that you carry a few filters with you. This one is still good enough, so I'm going to reuse it. On the other one, I'm going to have to replace the air filter because the other one is dirty. One of the advantages of the Revo is the front is covered versus the Slayer Pro, there's that window cut out. So all the dirt just flies in through there and covers up your filter. So after pretty much every run, you have to replace your filter. But other than that, as soon as this is buttoned up, we're going to get running. So the Slayer Pro is coming up first. And here's the Slayer Pro now after just tightening up the slipper clutch. So as you can see, it runs as it should. It's quick. These vehicles are quick. I mean, it's the same power as the Revo. The Slayer Pro is a little lighter than the Revo because of the suspension arm, shorter suspension arms and the tires. But here's the Revo, and the Revo, there we go. Again, running strong, running fast. And sometimes you'll want to adjust the transmission, thinking that's why it's not going very fast, because it's not shifting. The reality is, it's probably the slipper clutch is loose. And because the slipper clutch is loose, it never gets to the RPM. Well, the transmission never gets to the RPM in order to shift into second gear. So that's something to check. So please leave comments below. If you haven't already, please subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one. Thank you so much for watching.
Oh, my hair! My car! My rod!